The latest tech.
People love iPhone, and it's an important part of our daily lives.
Interviews.
You see far too many products that come on the market that you look at that you say, was a blind person ever even consulted for something like this?
Accessibility.
The most interesting thing over the last couple of years is the emphasis on gaming and accessibility.
This is Double Tap TV.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Double Tap TV. I am Steven Scott.
And I am Marc Aflalo. Steven, I'm excited for the show this week because we're talking about a subject that's really close to my heart and a company whose products I've used since day one. Now, my day one, because the company's probably older than me. And that subject is a smart home, and the company is Lutron.
Well, that term smart home means a lot of different things these days, and it is constantly evolving. So it's nice that there's always something new. Lutron, though, Mark, isn't one of the companies with products as readily available here in Scotland. They are a big brand in North America, right?
Oh, yeah, and they're super big. Lutron's been around for over 50 years, I believe it is. And aside from just switches, you know, they've got the stronghold in the market when it comes to, obviously, the switches, outlets, remote controllable shades. Their Caseta line of systems are actually one of the original systems I put in my house because unlike other companies who make smart individual bulbs, so you got to change all of them, they made the smart switches that connect to a single hub. So instead of paying $60 like per light bulb in your house, you pay a similar price and you change just the one switch, and suddenly every bulb in that room can turn on or off or even dim. And the hub, well, that makes managing things a lot easier because the switches talk to the hub and the hub is physically connected to your network. So instead of worrying about things connecting to the internet independently, everything is pretty easy to use, and the firmware updates happen automatically just to the hub, and upgrades are super easy to do as well.
You know, I minded last year, I think it was with Linksys, we talked about Thread and Matter and about how they play a role in the smart home space as well. Have you had any experience in either of those? And maybe you could recap for us what that actually means in the smart home space.
Yeah, of course. Okay, let's start with Thread. Okay, Thread is it's a clever name for a technology that lets devices talk to each other without using your actual network bandwidth. So instead of using up all that space that you're streaming internet or you're recording shows like this on the internet, they talk to each other on what's called like a back channel. So let's say you have two smart plugs and they basically create their own secured network between each other to make communicating and making them respond a lot faster and do things a lot quicker when you ask them to. Now, that's Thread. Now, Matter is a different story because Matter is a cross-platform standard that every smart home manufacturer have come together to create. And this allows for interoperability. What that means is, for example, that your Amazon Echoes, your Google Homes, your Apple HomePods, Lutron, Schlag, and all the other big names will be incorporating Matter into their existing technology, so everything will just work out of the box and actually talk to each other. So if you've got an Amazon speaker, but you've got Apple devices or vice versa, it's just going to work. If it's a Philips light bar, for example, Apple HomePod with an Amazon smart plug, Matter is the language they're all going to speak to each other and let them work together. And honestly, Steven, that's the real reason that I wanted to get our guest on this week's show, because one of the companies that's part of the board and actually has a seat at the table and is actually helping shape what Matter is becoming and, of course, will become is Lutron.
Brilliant. Okay, well, that really helps me understand it more. So, look, why don't we get our guest on?
All things come to those who wait, Steven. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to welcome Melissa Andresko. She is the Chief Corporate Brand Ambassador from Lutron. She's going to be with us next here on Double Tap TV.
You're watching Double Tap TV. Get involved. Follow us at Double Tap On Air or email us feedback@doubletaponair.com. Double Tap TV will be right back. You're watching Double Tap TV.
Hi guys, back on Double Tap TV. Mark, you have a history with our next guest, don't you?
Absolutely. This is not the first time that we've connected for interviews. Melissa Andresko is the spokesperson and Chief Corporate Brand Ambassador for Lutron. But not only that, Steven, she sits on the board of the Consumer Technology Association. That's the company that runs CES every year, the Consumer Electronics Show. She's been a pioneering woman in tech for pretty much her entire career. Melissa, thank you so much for joining Steven and I this week to talk all about Lutron.
Mark, thank you so much for having me.
Melissa, it's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm excited to get to ask you some questions. So I wanted to kick things off and ask about Lutron as a company, because you guys have an important seat at the table and really help shape the future of things with the other big tech companies. So when we talk about accessibility, and your products are obviously accessible given the remote controllability and interactivity of them. Is this something that's there by design?
Lutron obviously been around now for 61 years. So long history, a lot of legacy in bringing people, putting them in their best light, whether it's in their home or in their office space or wherever. But, to your point, we are really focused on the power of choice and giving people that choice. We want people to be able to control their lights and to control their shades on their terms. So that might mean that their favorite voice assistant is Amazon Alexa. It might mean that they would rather control their devices through a smartphone app. So with Lutron Products, you have that flexibility. So to answer your question, yes, it really is by design that we wanted to give people that flexibility. And, not every use case is appropriate for that, right? So if voice is your only method of control, it might not work controlling it at 2:00 in the morning to turn your lights on if you've got, a house full of people sleeping around you. So, it's really about giving people that, in the moment decision of how they want to be able to control their devices.
61 years is a long time, Melissa, but, long before we even used the term smart home. That being said, Lutron has always been ahead of the game, ahead of the curve when it comes to lighting control. And I say lighting because you also do shades, which control the sunlight. Do you guys even feel like you've been ahead of the game, or is it something just I get as a consumer?
Lutron has been doing remote controls of lights since the 1990s, believe it or not. So yes, it's obviously evolved with, radio frequency technology, the, introduction of smart devices and the integration with that, integration with other products. But yes, for years, we have been decades, I should say, we have been giving people that choice of being able to control lights through a remote control.
Melissa, have people with disabilities and empowering them always been part of Lutron's agenda, or is it a possible byproduct of making remotely controllable devices?
Lutron's founder, Joel Spira, had a philosophy of designing from the outside in. And that meant making sure that, a 90-year-old grandmother could control lights as easily as a 14-year-old, and making sure that people understood exactly what every button was going to do. That gets down to, the tactile feel of the products, the, seeing an LED come on to indicate that, yes, your lights have in fact turned on. So, I think in terms of just smart home in general, the freedoms and, accessibility that smart home has given to people with limited mobility and disability, I think it's one of those just amazingly unexpected, wonderful outcomes that, this portion of the population is able to benefit across the board, whether it's, control of their lights, their shades, cameras, whatnot. It's really one of those benefits that I'm not sure the whole world was expecting, but it's one of those, kind of pleasant surprises, I'll say.
Melissa, I'm a Lutron user, and I use your products because, they're one of the most stable, and also because I can change switches and not have to worry about tons of lights on my house. So cost of entry is far more attainable. Is this something you hear from users as well in terms of the quality and reliability of your products?
Absolutely. Quality is of the utmost importance for Lutron's philosophy. Taking care of our customers is Lutron's #1 principle. And that really does start with quality. People have chosen to invest in a Lutron product. It better work every time, and it better work as expected. And, technical support needs to be just a phone call away. And you need to be able to give people that reliability and assurance that this 61-year-old company is going to be there to take care of you if, you have trouble during the install. Our technical support team will actually have people call them from stores or while they're shopping online for products and saying, I'm not really sure which one I need. Can you help me, figure this out? So that really all goes into it. But I appreciate the kind words about the quality, because it is something that we take very seriously. Products go through years of testing, and again, making sure that we understand all the different use cases and really that life cycle of the product. How is it going to be used? Where is it going to be used? Who's going to be using it? How does it withstand, in other radio frequency products, for example? So all of that goes into it, and happy to hear for you that the result has been what you said is, the most stable platform in your home. So very happy to hear that.
You know, I know Mark and I have got so many more questions for you. Melissa Andresko is our guest from Lutron today. Stay right there, Melissa. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back with more.
Can't get enough Double Tap TV? Subscribe to the podcast and get your fill of Double Tap every day. Visit doubletaponair.com and follow us now. Double Tap TV will be right back. You're watching Double Tap TV.
Back on Double Tap TV, our guest this week is Melissa Andresko, Chief Corporate Brand Ambassador for Lutron. Melissa, I've got a couple of electrician friends who rave about the support that Lutron gives them as a company. How important is supporting your user base to you guys? And I mean consumers and electricians alike. Do you guys learn from that experience along the way?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mark. You know, obviously the trade side of Lutron's business is as equally important as the consumer side. You know, Lutron products go in not just homes, but we have a whole commercial division as well, whether it's the lighting controls, the smart shades. But, you know, to your point, you know, when Lutron first got started, it was very much working with the trades to get the products installed into the homes. And, you know, there are a fair amount of people who rely on professionals to come and bring these solutions to their home. Not everybody is comfortable installing, you know, a Caseta system in their house, and that's okay. You know, there's, you know, professional help is just a phone call away. You know, you can find very easily that whether it be a local electrician or a local handy person. So taking care of the trades is very important to us, and making sure that, you know, they have the knowledge and they have the, you know, the product experience to be able to, you know, really delight their customers, which all goes back to taking care of our customers.
I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to do it anyway. Are there any stories, any customer stories that have maybe passed over your desk, whether it's accessibility related or not, that you could share with us that maybe helps reinforce, at least to you, that realizing you guys are always on the right page, always going in the right direction? Any stories that come to mind?
You know, it's funny. I recently had the pleasure of working with some members of our technical support team, and we were actually talking about favorite stories, and this one happens to be an accessibility one. My colleague was telling me about a gentleman who called, and he had some questions about Caseta. And my colleague said, you know, he was walking him through it, and he said he had very, very pointed questions. It was obviously a person who was very educated on the system, but just needed a little help getting some things connected. And he said at the end of the call, he said to the gentleman, you know, is there anything else I can do for you? We got, you know, you're all up and running now. And the guy said, I have to tell you, you know, I have been bedridden for many, many years. And I never thought I would have the ability again to control lights when I wanted them controlled. And he talked about how the Pico remote control was, you know, now on his bedside, and he had a caretaker there who was helping him, you know, get the system in, you know, up and running and installed. And that Pico was next to his bed, and it was helping him, you know, adjust the lights when he needed to. And those are the stories that really make you realize the impact of smart home products. And, you know, the fact that smart home products are truly problem solvers. I mean, here's a gentleman who, you know, for many years was relying on others to control lights for him. And now he has the ability to have this remote next to his bed, or for others, it might be, you know, on a wheelchair. Now you have the freedom to control lights on your terms, and whether it's your smart shades, whether it's your smart lighting. But those are the kinds of stories that really, you know, really hit home and make you realize that smart home is truly, you know, for good and solving these kinds of problems.
Melissa, before we let you go, I have to ask you a question that I'm super curious about.
Yeah.
A lot of companies, you know, behind closed doors with research and development, and they're always working on products that we're going to see in 5 years from now, or even 10 years from now. It's not necessarily that easy to do because these things take time to develop. And without giving me any details, and I want to know your future roadmap, how far ahead are you guys working? What's your product cycle like? Are you guys working on stuff that we're going to see in 3 years from now? Is it stuff that we're going to see more in the immediate future? How does that work at a company your size?
You know, I think for us, it's really all about understanding what do our customers need. You know, how are their needs today going to evolve? And it's really about, you know, we take our customer feedback. So it's so important to us because it's really what drives innovation, and making sure that, you know, we can understand, you know, what kinds of integrations are people looking for when it comes to their smart lighting system, or, you know, is there, you know, we recently have refined our battery technology for our smart shades and making the batteries last longer. And, things like that, making sure that we're thinking ahead of all the different, wants or needs of our customers. So it really just depends. I mean, there could be ideas that sort of come out of a customer interview that maybe we hadn't been thinking of, or maybe was on the docket for later down the line. And once we hear that customer feedback, that's when our teams will sit down and really evaluate.
Melissa, one of your more recent products is the Caseta Smart Dimmer. Now, this design-wise looks and feels very different from the existing Caseta lineup. So it looks like a traditional in-wall light switch with the on and off toggle, but to the right of the toggle, you've got a little LED display that indicates the dimming brightness and a little toggle that slides up and down to control that brightness. How is this design significant in terms of the future direction of this product lineup, or just Lutron products in general?
I think it's going back to that power of choice. The Caseta by Lutron smart lighting system has been around now since 2014, believe it or not. And so the Diva Smart Dimmer is an extension of Caseta. And believe it or not, we have been producing the Diva Dimmer for over 30 years. So that design is very familiar to consumers already. And, that familiar paddle switch with the little slider on the side to help you adjust the intensity of the light, it's very familiar, and it's a style that, you will frequently see in homes. What this brings to Caseta is, again, another choice for people. People may, want to coordinate with other, paddle switch style devices in their house. And so this new Diva Dimmer for Caseta is giving people that ability to coordinate with other products in their home, especially if you have, multiple light switches or dimmers under one wall plate, and maybe the other two are not on your Caseta system, but one is. You can have that consistent look now across the board, and you're not going to have mismatched products. So in the same, way that we are very focused on making sure our products are easy to use and understand, it's also very important, the aesthetics. If you look at our products, very sleek, modern designs. You mentioned, the LEDs, the fact that our wall plates don't have any visible screws, the fact that our products have a very thin profile by design, the fact that we give people so many color options and finish options. It's really, giving people the ability to either let these products kind of blend into the background, or maybe even stand out if they want to use it, as a design element in the space. So for us, the Diva Smart Dimmer it's very exciting to be able to bring this new product to the Caseta family. And, we think it's going to just open up more doors for people from a design perspective.
Melissa Andresko, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Steven, it's always fun to have Melissa on and talk all about the smart home, especially on the accessibility side of things. I wanted to bring up another company for a second, and that's Philips, because you have some recent experience installing Philips Hue for the first time in your house. I'm surprised it took this long. How was that experience? Did you find it pretty easy to do?
I did once I finally opened the boxes and bothered to plug the lights in and the bridge and everything else. I mean, honestly, I think I was expecting a nightmare because I'd had such a horrible experience earlier with some other brands, and I just thought I just don't really feel that this is going to be a pleasant experience. I was amazed at how quick the Philips Hue bridge setup was. The app was super accessible on my iPhone. I was able to set everything up very quickly. Just plugging the lights in, turning them on, scanning for them. Suddenly they're in there. Even scanning the serial code if I couldn't get it to show up independently on the app.
Yeah.
It was really, really simple. The process was easy. And, it actually made me want to go out and spend more money, which I guess is Philips' idea, right? I mean, this suits them because I go and buy more bulbs, but it makes me want to use them. And I will say from an accessibility point of view and from a low vision point of view, Philips Hue bulbs are great because they have no flicker. There is no issue at all with that. And that can be a real problem, especially with cheaper branded bulbs. They are expensive. Everything about Philips Hue is expensive, but you know what? You get what you pay for, and I imagine these will still be going in even 5 or even 10 years' time.
We recently redid our deck outside our house, and of course we only get to use that for about 4 or 5 months out of the year because of winter and stuff. And I was trying to figure out what to do with lighting because I don't have wiring out there, so it was like I need something a daisy chain. I ended up going with Philips Hue because they've got an incredible reputation when it comes to durability outdoors. They say you can leave these things out through the entire winter and not have any issues whatsoever. whatsoever. Definitely on the expensive side. We're talking about $199 for a strip of LED. So that adds up really quickly. But again, the durability is what sold me on that.
And that's the key, right? I mean, obviously you want to get the best product, but you obviously want to try and make sure you save some money. And obviously the best way to do that is if you want a product like Philips Hue, wait to a Black Friday sale, or wait to a summer sale. Find another way to do that. But truthfully, you're not going to get better. But of course, there are other options out there. Lutron's one of them. There's lots of companies out there that are making these products. And the best thing to do is just maybe buy one bulb, or one switch, or one thing, and try it. And you don't even have to buy the bridge. With products like Philips and Lutron now, a lot of these devices, because of what we mentioned earlier with thread and matter and all these these words that you hear flying around, it means that we can connect these devices so much more simply. For example, with your Amazon Echo, you can just say scan for devices and it'll find the bulb for you. I wouldn't even have to hook up the bridge. The reason I did it was because I wanted to use the features of Philips Hue and the app that comes with it, and to do that you need to use the bridge to get those extra functions, and I was okay with that.
Stephen, that's a wrap. That's all the time we got for this week. On behalf of course, you, Stephen Scott, and our guest, Lutron's Melissa Andresko, thank you for being here on this week's edition of Double Tap TV.
Thanks for watching Double Tap. Send us your feedback to feedback@doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. Hosted by Marc Aflalo in Montreal and Steven Scott in Glasgow. Producer Marc Aflalo. Editing and graphics Jordan Steves. Voiceover Anna Vicino. Social media Wendy Kaufman. Integrated Described Video Specialist M. Williams. Supervising Producer Michelle Dudas. Manager Programming AMI TV Lizanne Gagne. Director Content Development and Production Karen Nye. VP Content Development and Programming John Melville. President and CEO David Arrington. Copyright 2023 Accessible Media Inc.